Well, hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're listening on the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are both free to download and both free to use. Of course, there is another way to consume the show on a daily basis that is, quite frankly, sweeping the nation. And that is to watch the show live anywhere you scroll, so long as you follow Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you follow me at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingewatch on Instagram. I would normally here say it will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the program, but that would be kind of a lie because there is one topic on the docket today, and you know exactly what it is. But we will dissect every angle of it, I assure you. And if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, please feel free. You could call or text into the show at 719-247-1313, or if you are watching the live stream of the show, you could simply drop a comment right there. You know, if you're a longtime listener to this show, a running joke has been anytime I take a day off, which isn't a lot. You should see the number of vacation days I have banked. And look, I don't feel like I actually work. I mean, I talk about sports. So I don't feel compelled to take a ton of vacation. But whenever I do, it seems like significant news breaks, as if the sports world is somehow united against me. And I made a decision of my own yesterday. And I said, given where we are in the sports calendar, next week's a big week. NFL training camp opens up. Coach Prime's going to be bringing the Buffaloes down here week after that. Like, it will be the beginning of football season next week. So I said, these last 2 days, you know, if a certain someone doesn't come to a decision, I'm not doing a show. I'll take these 2 days and, you know, reset, regroup, and we'll get onto it with NFL training camp and college football. I mean, at this point, it's just getting silly. But LeBron caught me at a good time, and here I am. LeBron James, if you're just joining us, has made his decision, and it will be the Philadelphia 76ers. And I have to say that I am surprised. I am surprised that he chose Philadelphia for a variety of reasons. But at the top of the list, and the thought that is just right at the forefront more than anything else, I can't believe he did this to Cleveland again. That's where my mind is at. If you are a Cleveland sports fan, I am thinking about you today. Because the longer this went on, the more I convinced myself that surely he can't spurn Cleveland for a third time in his career. We forget that there were a lot of things that he said while he was in Cleveland the second time that led to some animus towards him from Cleveland fans when he went to LA. Nothing even close to what it was when he decided to go to Miami, I grant you. But this is now the third time that Cleveland, his home, so everything LeBron hits a little different in the state of Ohio. This is the third time where they thought they would have LeBron James for the upcoming season, and they will not. And this is as tortured of a fan base and of a sports city as we have. And the fact that he would draw this out, I think intentionally, to a certain degree. I do wonder if he changed his mind, and there are some signs here pointing to maybe he pivoted to Philadelphia. But he drew this out in some part on purpose. And then maybe there was a change of heart, and then that extended it even further. But the longer this went, the more I said to myself, it has to be Cleveland. Right? Because surely he would not want to punch the collective gut of Cleveland again. But yet he did. And he'll be in the same conference. And given that Cleveland made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, you could say that that LeBron James, you could foresee LeBron James ending the season of the Cleveland Cavaliers this upcoming year. And I just don't know why. I mean, he even in his statement, thank Cleveland, said that Northeast Ohio will be his forever home or something to that degree. Like, he knows that this decision, there was no NBA city that cared more about where he was going than Cleveland. And still to draw it out and to give Cleveland hope that LeBron was coming home one more time, that he was going to end this story where it began and take a team. And you may not agree that Cleveland's that close to a title, but the fact of the matter is they were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. You may not believe it. They believe they're close to a title. And Cleveland was one of the places where LeBron could go and make a difference and move the needle towards winning a title. And I think what has many people upset about this decision is that he is going to a place where you could argue he moves the needle the least. Because the perception of Philadelphia was that they were already on the short list of teams that could win an NBA title once they traded for Jaylen Brown. A lot of these other places that LeBron could go, he could make the difference between you thinking one way about a team and another way. Cleveland, Denver, Minnesota, Miami, Golden State, these are all play, and you just have to decide what difference LeBron James makes, because I will grant you a place like Golden State, they're not winning with him and they're not winning without him. So Golden State, he would have less impact in terms of striving for a title, but he'd make that team better. And I suppose he does make Philadelphia better because he's better than the player that they currently had at that spot. But again, Philadelphia was already viewed. The Jaylen Brown move made them serious title contenders. So LeBron could have gone to any number of different places and been more of a difference maker. And here it feels like he's jumping on the bandwagon. And I don't believe that if Philadelphia didn't land Jaylen Brown, that LeBron would have gone there. I don't think could Philadelphia have made its way onto Rich Paul's whiteboard? Perhaps. But I don't think Philly was a serious destination for LeBron James before they landed Jaylen Brown. So I think that's part of, or a big reason why this is being met with a lot of criticism, is because it looks, more than any other destination he could have gone to, this looks like ring chasing. And ring chasing is such a interesting premise, isn't it? When we use the word ring chasing and when we don't. Because could one argue that, making a local example, that Peyton Manning was ring chasing when he came to Denver? Similar circumstances. LA didn't want LeBron. Indy didn't want Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning made a decision based on what team he thought he could join to give him the best chance to win a title. But yet there was almost zero criticism around Peyton Manning going to Denver. But you could argue he was making the exact same decision LeBron is making today. It just, of the potential landing spots of Peyton Manning, Denver wasn't viewed in the same way as Philadelphia is. And I think that becomes the difference. What makes a decision the right one based on basketball, football, baseball, hockey decisions, and what makes it ring chasing? Peyton Manning wasn't viewed as chasing a ring because he was going to a place in Denver that was goodish, right? They had made the playoffs, so that you can't say there wasn't talent on that Broncos team, but they were led by Tim Tebow, so they were never going to compete for a Super Bowl. But Peyton Manning looked at it and was like, you know what? You replace Tim Tebow with me, we might be able to do something. And something they did. If LeBron were to go to, let's say, Denver, apples to apples, he would be viewed as making a difference. If the Denver Nuggets got LeBron James, or Cleveland, or Golden State, even though I don't believe they would have won, but if they, or Minnesota, better example, and those teams would have won, LeBron would be looked at as he took a team that was at a certain station and raised their level, and now they're champions. And they wouldn't have been there without LeBron. What makes this, in many people's mind, ring chasing is because Philadelphia was always at the top of the list in terms of who's the best team that LeBron could go to. Where he could go. Like some people threw out San Antonio, that would have been better. Clearly, what you have seen is that if the New York Knicks lost the NBA Finals, LeBron James would be a New York Knick. And it would be viewed much the same way. But the issue here is that there was another tier of team where, yes, LeBron would be going there for a good chance to win, but it wouldn't look like he was glomming on to a team that was already a championship caliber team. And Philadelphia, once they made the move for Jaylen Brown, a lot of people went, well, Philly, they could win a title. So I think there's the two main reasons for the criticism today of LeBron James. It's viewed as ring chasing. I don't have as much of an issue in that regard. But the Cleveland stuff, that's what bothers me. And if this were an athlete from, let's say, Christian McCaffrey, right? From Colorado, let's played for the Denver Broncos. We're going in an alternate reality here, but just I'm trying to put myself in Cleveland's shoes in all of this. If there was an elite athlete that played for the hometown organization and had a lot of success and then left once, came back, left again, and then you thought he was coming back and then didn't. If I'm a Cleveland sports fan today, I feel a little betrayed and I'm a little bit ticked off. Because you waited almost a month for LeBron to once again, as his final insult to the place he grew up, said no to Cleveland again. That's where the criticism from me lies. Why did you have to do this to Cleveland again? If you weren't going to go to Cleveland, why didn't you just make this decision sooner? It felt like Philadelphia could have been an easy decision 2 weeks ago, and maybe this wouldn't hurt as much. But I think the psychology of LeBron, I feel like he feels he doesn't owe anything to Cleveland. He gave them something in a title that should make everything else a moot point. Going to Miami the first time, leaving for LA and telling them no this time around. I don't think it does. Take your thoughts. LeBron going to Philadelphia, 719-24-7-1313. Check out our sweet deal of the week, Dickey's Barbecue Pit. Some of the best Texas barbecue you will ever have in your entire life. For just $25, you will get $50 to spend at Dickey's with our sweet deal of the week, just in time for football season. Want to cater your tailgate, your watch party at home, or just a big fan of barbecue. We don't police what reasons people have to get the sweet deal of the week. We just encourage them to do so. Go to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com. Either place will get you to where you need to go to take advantage of our Dickey's Barbecue Pit sweet deal of the week, and want to act soon because there are a limited number of these deals available. LeBron is going to Philly. Was not expecting that. There is no one in my orbit that is happier than my guy Josiah today. Sixers fan. I now owe him lunch. But joke's on him because I'll get the sweet deal of the week, so I'll save money on the lunch I owe him. He felt like LeBron was coming to his beloved Sixers, and I said no. And I was incorrect, and he was right, and he is over the moon. Says, go Sixers, hashtag trust the process. Now you see, that's the thing. You start going back and reverse engineering this whole escapade. LeBron brought up the words trust the process at the live taping of the shop that was at Fanatics Fest, right? And everyone, brought up trust the process. And then he said, I've been saying that phrase since before Joel Embiid was born, which I don't think is factually correct because LeBron is old in NBA years. He's not an old man. So I think Joel Embiid was born. Pretty sure. But he said nothing. That's what he says. He says, trust the process. Okay. Well, now, are we sure? But here's the thing that was kicking around in my head when I saw the news. Bob Myers was the only executive tied to any organization that was a guest on Rich Paul's podcast. The only one. I have to wonder about that. And I'm sure look, I think tampering's a difficult thing to prove, but I would not be shocked if that word gets thrown around here in the very near future. I don't know. And I said at the time, I think Bob Myers is okay because Bob Myers is not Philadelphia 76ers general manager or Philadelphia 76ers owner. His official role is with the entire Josh Harris enterprise. So he's involved with the Sixers. He's involved with the Devils. He's involved with Crystal Palace. And I know what you're thinking, but he came from the Warriors. Yes, his experience, his specialty is basketball, but he is not technically a Sixers employee. So is it tampering? Is the fact that LeBron James waited nearly a month to make the decision kind of clear out some of the suspicion of tampering? The reports that the thoughts from people that he changed his mind. I'm sure it's not going to stop somebody from leveling the claim. I just don't know how they can prove it. But you look back and you say, because I thought it was going to be kind of cool. You did the whiteboard, in comes, just a parade of people associated making their case for certain teams. Bob Myers makes a case for the Sixers. Somebody, Kevin Demoff, I guess, with the Kroenke Sports Empire would be a similar player. He comes out, does it for the Denver Nuggets, or better yet, how about Nathan McKinnon goes onto the podcast and makes a case for LeBron to come to Denver? I thought that was what we were going to see, is every team come into Rich Paul's podcast and make their case. And in the end, only Philadelphia got airtime. So were the signs there all along? Now we're dabbling in tinfoil hat territory. But it is interesting when you agree that Bob Myers was the only person that went on Rich Paul's podcast. And that LeBron, knowing full well that those three words have a special meaning in one particular NBA city, for him to throw them around as, and this is going to be another NBA pun, cavalier as he was, he had to know that people were going to seize on it. Does that mean he knew? We may never know the answer, because there are ramifications to knowing that answer. Although we are talking about Adam Silver's NBA, how's that Kawhi Leonard investigation going? So even if somebody claimed and had credible evidence that LeBron James was tampered with, that he was always going to Philadelphia, and all of this other stuff was a dog and pony show just to throw people off the scent, I don't believe that the NBA is capable or willing, to be quite honest, to really fully investigate it and bring a satisfying resolution to that investigation. But I will push back on something that Josiah texted in as well. Said no one thought LeBron was actually going to Cleveland because James Harden is there. That's where I disagree. I think in the end, because LeBron in his statement made it very clear that this was not about a connection to a certain market, wasn't about proximity to his family, it was just about winning and basketball. Right? And that, to his credit, was what he outlined right at the start of this whole thing. Was that he wanted to make a basketball decision, and there's no doubt that going to Philadelphia is a basketball decision. There's nothing else other than a star by the name of Tyrese Maxey on Rich Paul's whiteboard that tethers LeBron to Philadelphia. Right? Doesn't have family there. It's not close to his family. There's not a beloved teammate, former teammate of his. It's none of that stuff. So this, in fairness to LeBron, is a basketball decision. Knowing that, you say, okay, well, Cleveland couldn't have been the destination for him because it would be so clunky, the idea of LeBron playing with James Harden. In fact, anybody playing with James Harden is actually a bad basketball fit. I don't know if you know that. Unless you set screens, and then you can work very well with James Harden. But the argument for Cleveland was never basketball. And that's why I'm pushing back, because we now know it was a basketball decision, and okay, playing with James Harden is a terrible basketball decision. But when this process was playing out, we thought that there were other reasons that he was basing his decision on, right? Big reason for Golden State was the proximity to his family. Bronny still plays for the LA Lakers. News on that from Shams. Bronny is not requesting a trade, and this is not a package deal. in case you were wondering. But he lives in LA now. He has a daughter who's still in school. His other son is playing at Arizona. And we brought the golf thing into it. So we thought Northern California, San Francisco, his buddy Steph Curry, like that wasn't a great that wasn't about winning. Basketball fit wise, maybe you could see it. But Golden State probably of all the perceived destinations would give him the least chance to win. But we thought it was going to be more than just basketball at the end, more than just winning. And I guess in the end, this is LeBron James doing the opposite of what he did the last time he chose a new team. Because he chose the LA Lakers for reasons that had nothing to do with winning or basketball. And it worked out in the end, that one time. But now this is LeBron saying, I did the super team thing in Miami. I did the homecoming thing with Cleveland. I made a decision for my, off the court interests in going to LA. And now one more time, I have this decision to make. I'm going to make a basketball decision. Because you could argue that the only true basketball decision that he has made up until now is going to Miami, right? That was about basketball and winning. Him going back to Cleveland was more about the homecoming. Yes, Cleveland had a chance to win because of Kyrie Irving, but I don't think that was the main reason he went back to Cleveland. Maybe it just put it over the top. Then he goes to LA for Space Jam 2. Finally made a basketball decision. And in true, LeBron James fashion, nobody likes it. Which I have to ask the question, would we, in a general sense, forget the fan bases of each of these teams? Would we, as casual observers or of objective observers, just of basketball fans, at this point, was there any place that LeBron could have chosen and everybody been like, awesome? I don't think so. I think it's partly on him. I think he drew this out too long to the point that it taxed people. People got tired of the story, and they're just like, make a freaking decision already. And in the back of their mind, they're like, I'm going to hate wherever he goes. Because I'm going to look at it and I say, we waited all this time for this. So Philadelphia, Cleveland, Miami, none of it was going to be worth the wait. Except for the fan base of the team he's going to. So Josiah and Sixers fans, thrilled. Perhaps worth the wait for them. For everyone else, no. 719-24-7-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. LeBron James on his way to Philadelphia, and I will say that the timing of this is actually quite good. Because, yes, he gets today all to himself, the weekend all to himself, but don't forget, veterans report for NFL training camp on Tuesday. This works out for everyone. He gets the attention that his decision deserves today, and then we get to collectively move on and get ready for NFL training camp. Aaron called in during the break, and he's not on board with the idea that LeBron is ring chasing, but he did acknowledge that the Eastern Conference, the Knicks and the Celtics have a bit of a problem on their hands now. I would say that they already had that when Jaylen Brown got traded to Philadelphia. I think you could see the Embiid part of this is still the great unknown, right? Because he's still there. And what are they going to do with him? But I think absent that answer, because it can't be known unless the Sixers turn around and traded Joel Embiid, which they can't because he is a completely untradeable player with an untradeable contract at this point. And the first team that willingly takes on Joel Embiid, I will want Adam Silver to do a full investigation, fully knowing that it will take a year and there will be no resolution. But I will call for Adam Silver to investigate any team that is willing to take on Joel Embiid. But we can't know what Joel Embiid's going to be this year. We think he's going to be hurt. 60 games, 70 games, 50 games. How are they going to work him in? That still has yet to be decided. But I think we collectively made the decision that certainly Philadelphia is a championship level team in the Eastern Conference when they acquired Jaylen Brown, and LeBron James does make them to some degree even more so. The ring chasing thing is the idea that Philly was already in your mind going to win a title, and LeBron is just jumping on. But the thing about it, the ring chasing and Philadelphia and their title chances, let's pump the brakes for just a moment on Philadelphia winning the title as a fait accompli. Right? I think that they would be my pick today. But let's not think that this is a foregone conclusion and Philadelphia is ready to rock and there's going to be no issues. Because let's not forget, we are living in the era of the flawed NBA, right? Every team, because of the salary cap structure, the way it is, every team is flawed. And every time a team wins, don't look too far back. Look at OKC just 2 years ago. Everyone was so sure Oklahoma City was going to rule the NBA for the next decade. They would be the next dynasty. And they turned around 1 year later and got bounced. Everybody has flaws. These Sixers still have flaws. Joel Embiid is a flaw. Their shooting is a flaw. Their depth is a flaw. So Philadelphia is not a perfect team. But what you're judging on is which team's flaws will mean less when it matters. Right? We've seen this with the Denver Nuggets. Their inability to get to the rim or to protect the rim has hurt them every single year since they won a title. Their flaw has been a fatal one every year since they won a title. And they have not meaningfully addressed this at any point between then and now. Right? Philadelphia, I think their lack of shooting, their lack of depth, Joel Embiid, I think these are flaws that I think that they can overcome, but they are not flaws to be minimized or flaws to overlook. They're flawed. But so is Boston. So is Indiana. So is Miami. So of a flawed group of teams in the East, yes, I like Philadelphia the most. I like Philadelphia the most when they landed Jaylen Brown. But even when LeBron, in one of his other decisions, the decision, proclaimed not 3, not 4, not 5, when he arrived in Miami, fast forward to November, and everyone was sure that Eric Spoelstra was going to get fired and Pat Riley was going to come down from his throne there in Miami and coach this team. That's another potential flaw of this Sixers team. There's a lot of new here and a lot of new that they got to get figured out. So, yes, Philadelphia, LeBron James joined the team with the shortest path, if you will, to win a title. He joined the best team on the board. But this is far from him joining up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade in Miami. And even then, right, there were some growing pains. There were times that you doubted whether this was all going to work. And that's going to be the interesting part of it at the beginning of this upcoming NBA season, is how does this all come together? Right? Jaylen Brown is a huge, and from a talent perspective, from a quality player perspective, Jaylen Brown is a bigger addition to the Philadelphia 76ers than LeBron James. So you bring in could be a new face of your franchise. You got to figure that stuff out. You have VJ Edgecombe entering his second year in the league, which can be a little, could be go one of two ways, right? Some guys, they have the sophomore slump. Others just keep taking off. I like VJ Edgecombe, but now the room has gotten a little bit more crowded. There are more mouths to feed. There are more egos in the room. So where does VJ Edgecombe fit into all of that? A guy that I think Philadelphia should still prioritize in his development, because everyone else on that roster is who they are. He's the only one that still has, upside and growth. We've seen enough of Jaylen Brown. We've seen certainly enough of LeBron. I think we've even seen enough of Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey is one of the best point guards in the league. Can he get that much better? I don't think so, but VJ Edgecombe can. We don't know what VJ Edgecombe can be as a player. So it's on Nick Nurse to figure out all of those parts. Now, if you're a Sixers fan, you're listening saying, I'm down for all of this. Yes, these are problems that you're happily sign up for. But the idea that they're just going to roll into October and just take over the league and don't look back, it's like, no, it will take some time, and there will be thought pieces out there that this isn't working. Is it LeBron that's not working or Jaylen Brown that's not working? That remains to be seen. But I think I do think it'll be a little bit bumpy at first. But if I'm Nick Nurse, I want to have this collection of talent, and I'll figure it out. So I guess I'm agreeing with most people's sentiment that, yeah, Philly looks like the team to beat, but I'm also cracking the door open a bit if you're a fan of another team in the East and say, like, it's not 100% for sure that this is all going to work. I think it will, but it's a lot new, and LeBron has an ego, and Jaylen Brown has an ego, and this team is very different when Joel Embiid plays and when he doesn't. So they got some stuff to figure out. And that's why I said, like, Philadelphia might be the best team that has been linked to LeBron throughout this month. But that doesn't mean it's the truly best basketball fit. There was another potential destination that I still, even on this day where LeBron has decided that he is going to Philadelphia, I still think there was a better basketball fit on the board. And it was just up the road from where I'm standing. I think as far as a seamless fit, LeBron James would have been a seamless fit into the Denver Nuggets and given them exactly what one of the things they had been looking for this offseason. With Philadelphia on paper, better than Denver. But the fits, I think, with Brown and LeBron, it's not seamless. It will take some time. Which, to me, begs a question that I want to pose to you at 719-247-1313. Not only did LeBron not pick the Denver Nuggets, the Denver Nuggets were only in the conversation for a couple of days. And with this decision being made solely on basketball, I'm not saying that LeBron, I get, they could have still lost out to Philadelphia, right? Because again, on paper, Philadelphia is a better team than Denver is. But if this was about basketball all along, as it seems like it was, how can the Denver Nuggets, a team that is not that far removed from a title, that has the best player in the world, how could they not even be in the conversation for LeBron James? I want to delve into that coming up next. Your thoughts at 719-247-1313. LeBron taking his talents to the city of brotherly love. Do you think that they are the title favorites? If you asked me today, I would say San Antonio, Philly in the NBA Finals. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Welcome in. Thanks for stopping by, whether you're listening to the show on the streaming apps of Extra Sports 1300 and 740 KVOR or listening to both at the same time. Seems unnecessary, but either is good. Or if you're watching the show anywhere you scroll, and we do mean anywhere, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, we're in all of those places at Extra Sports 1300. At 740 KVOR, or I am there at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingewatch on Instagram and Threads. The story of the day, LeBron James going to the Philadelphia 76ers in a decision that does look to be all about basketball and all about winning. One, because he said as much. Two, because the geography doesn't quite work out for this to be a staying close to home decision. And LeBron James is playing for NBA minimum wage. He took the minimum that he probably could have taken with the Philadelphia 76ers. So it wasn't about money. It wasn't about proximity to his family. And it wasn't about, going back to a place that's near and dear to his heart like Cleveland or Miami. It was truly, in the end, about winning in basketball. So I have to ask the question. If this was LeBron James's thinking all along, how could the Denver Nuggets not even crack that conversation? I mean, really think about it. People that have covered LeBron for a long time know LeBron fairly well, or talk to people that know him fairly well. All of this, sports insider industrial complex that we have going on. And all of these people, no mention of Denver. Nobody in the league was talking about Denver. Nobody close to LeBron was talking about Denver. Every insider did not mention Denver. The last time Denver was mentioned was Brian Windhorst on his podcast simply saying, I think Denver would be a great fit. But I don't think there was one time other than Rich Paul's whiteboard where you had any thought that LeBron James might come to the Denver Nuggets. And I don't know how far the whiteboard gets you, because the Mavericks were on the whiteboard because of oil. So I think that was a lot of just throwing everything against the wall, or in this case, the whiteboard, for content purposes. Why couldn't the Denver Nuggets be in that conversation? Minnesota was. That was the team that everyone looked at and said, well, from a basketball perspective, sure, but why the hell would LeBron James want to go there? Why couldn't Denver have been that team? I'm not saying in the end that LeBron James, faced with the decision about going to Denver or going to Philadelphia, that he would have chosen Denver. He could have still chosen Philadelphia. And I guess my thought is not so much to, why didn't he choose Denver over Philadelphia? Why wasn't Denver even in the running? If this was not about money, not about proximity to home, not about, playing with buddies, although Tyrese Maxey did have a star next to his name, but nobody else did. If it was about basketball and winning, why weren't the Denver Nuggets even considered here? Or at least, why does it seem like they were not considered? Maybe the better way to put it. And I think the answer to my question is something about the Denver Nuggets is not right. Something about the Denver Nuggets stinks. And it could be any number of potential reasons. I'll lay them out. You tell me, 719-247-1313, if I hit on the one that you think it is. Okay? First is maybe the Kroenke part of this is not as much of a draw. Maybe there's not as strong of a relationship between Josh Kroenke and LeBron James as there seems to be. Maybe LeBron James just wanted to use Josh Kroenke's boat once. I mean, Rich Paul put the Kroenkes on there, so I don't think necessarily that's it. But you have to introduce it. Is it that, the practice facility, which is a hot button issue in these parts, could that be it? That LeBron James knows that the Denver Nuggets practice, in a basically a American Legion gymnasium that's built into Ball Arena. They do not have their own practice facility, state of the art. And he's like, I don't know that I want to spend half my time here. Could it be the city of Denver? Now, we know that it wasn't a decision based on a city close to his family. But could it be the city of Denver that LeBron James was just like, no, I don't want to live there? And there's not New York, a hop, skip, and a jump away like there is in Philadelphia. I think Shams Charania is reporting that LeBron's going to live in New York and commute. Or could it be that one of the smartest basketball minds that there ever has been looked at the Denver Nuggets and said, I can't win there? Because, again, we're not talking about Philadelphia edging out Denver in discussing, Jokic versus, Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey versus Jamal Murray. We're not having that conversation. The Nuggets weren't even mentioned. People were talking, maybe it was going to be Cleveland at one point. Maybe it was going to be Miami at one point. Rich Paul intimated that Golden State was a team perhaps that it came down to for LeBron James. No mention of Denver. So it's not even debating between Philly and Denver. Denver was like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 down the list. So it's not that Philly gives him a better chance to win. Is it that Denver gives him, in his mind, no chance to win? And before you say, well, that's silly because they have Nikola Jokic, remind me how many times the Denver Nuggets have gotten back to the NBA Finals after winning a title. Last time I checked, Nikola Jokic was available in the playoffs, and yet the Nuggets still fell woefully short. And may I remind you, too, that another one of the greatest basketball minds we have ever witnessed also recently twice said that the Nuggets aren't close. So you have Nikola Jokic saying it immediately after they lost to Minnesota and then reiterating those thoughts when he was playing in the World Cup qualifiers for Serbia. And you have LeBron James having a list all this time for the better part of a month that does not have the Denver Nuggets on it. So could it be that two of the brightest basketball minds we have ever come across are both looking at this Nuggets team and saying they're not close? They're not LeBron away. Because even though I have been critical of the Nuggets and I have said that they're not better than San Antonio or Oklahoma City, I felt like adding LeBron James would put the Nuggets more on level footing with those other teams. Because you think one of the biggest issues in that Minnesota series was the fact that Jamal Murray was being hounded all game long by the Minnesota Timberwolves, Jaden McDaniels most notably, and they wore him out, and there was nobody else, with Aaron Gordon also hurt, nobody else that could bring the ball up for the Denver Nuggets and facilitate their offense. You're not going to bully LeBron James. You're not going to be able to wear him down the way you wore Jamal Murray down, and you're not going to be able to do that when there's Jamal Murray and LeBron James on the same team. The very thing that David Adelman talked about after the Minnesota series, that the Nuggets needed secondary ball handling, LeBron gives them. So he would fit a need. And to me, with the moves that were made by Oklahoma City, that's made them just not quite as good. They still have Jalen Williams, still have Shea, still have Chet. But the Thunder today aren't a better team than when they were eliminated in last year's playoffs. And then you would have the Denver Nuggets adding LeBron James, somebody who fits exactly what they need, and coupling his galaxy brain with Nikola Jokic's galaxy brain, and two players that are fantastic facilitators. Jamal Murray gets to play off the ball. I think I would be sitting here saying I would take the Nuggets in a 7-game series over Oklahoma City. I think I would take them over the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think it would be a real conversation between San Antonio and Denver as the team that I think would be best equipped to get out of the West. But did LeBron James not feel that way? 2018, LeBron James wanted to go to Hollywood. Denver doesn't have a Hollywood. They shoot some movies here, but they don't really make movies in Denver. Okay, so when he made the decision to go to LA, it wasn't a referendum on the Nuggets as a basketball team. It was a referendum on the Nuggets as a movie making, or the Denver as a movie making city, because he didn't make a basketball decision when he went to LA. Now he's making a basketball decision, and the Nuggets are nowhere to be found in the conversation. I think the facilities that the Denver Nuggets have is a factor. It has always been a factor with some free agents. Okay, these are millionaires that, fly on charter planes and stay at the nicest hotels, and the practice facility has to kind of fit into that. That's why many people on the Nuggets beat have consistently brought up to Josh Kroenke, when is the new practice facility coming along? Because it has. I know it has. It has affected their ability to attract free agents in the past. But I somewhat doubt that that's ultimately why LeBron made his decision, that Philadelphia has a nicer practice facility than the Denver Nuggets, or that Minnesota and Miami and all of these, Cleveland, all of these other teams have nicer practice facilities than Denver. But I think it's a factor for sure. But what I think the biggest reason is why the Denver Nuggets weren't in position to land LeBron James, weren't considered by what it looks like. They're too far away. They're too far away. LeBron James projected himself onto that Nuggets team and said, I don't think I can win there. Because remember, Minnesota was on the list. Felt like he could win there. I mean, I'm drawing conclusions because LeBron hasn't spoken up about this, and Rich Paul hasn't brought up negatives surrounding the Denver Nuggets. It was only positives when he was talking about them on the whiteboard. But just the fact that Minnesota, and that's where I keep going. Cleveland, I get. Miami, I get. Golden State, I understand. Philadelphia emerged with the trade of Jaylen Brown, trade for Jaylen Brown. But Minnesota, like, ate at me. Why do they keep getting brought up? Who wants to spend their winters in Minneapolis? And the Nuggets with LeBron James, I would take them over Minnesota. I wonder if LeBron felt the same way. And you know what the kicker is in all of this too? LeBron James does not go to Philadelphia if they don't make the Jaylen Brown trade. Let me be very crystal clear about that. LeBron James is not choosing the Philadelphia 76ers as constructed in last season. There's no way. They landed Jaylen Brown and Philadelphia became a legitimate landing spot. The Denver Nuggets made an offer to the Boston Celtics for Jaylen Brown. And that offer would have landed them Jaylen Brown. They would have kept Jamal Murray. And they would have Nikola Jokic. You don't think LeBron would have seriously considered that team, Jamal, Jaylen Brown, and Nikola Jokic? But the Nuggets did not pull off that trade. They were rebuffed, maybe with extreme prejudice by Brad Stevens. Why? They have no draft capital. Maybe from a player standpoint, Aaron Gordon and Cam Johnson would have been enough, but they needed the picks. And the Nuggets had none. So the Denver Nuggets, and maybe this is part of LeBron's thinking too, the Denver Nuggets do not really have the ability to improve. He would have to be choosing them as they are currently constructed and be okay with that. In Philadelphia, not saying that they would want to do it, but I think a lot of teams would be interested in VJ Edgecombe. They have no young talent or no draft capital to be able to use to better their team. And you know what I'm saying is 100% the truth, because the Denver Nuggets have not improved their basketball team one bit this offseason. So the idea, it goes back to Rich Paul talking about the on paper in July may not hold up in January. Well, if that's the case, then you want to be able to join a place that has the ability to make moves to better themselves for the rest of the season. Nuggets don't have that. Jaylen Brown, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, I think put at least puts the Denver Nuggets in the conversation to land LeBron James. And by the way, takes Philadelphia out of the running because Philadelphia doesn't get Jaylen Brown. No draft capital, can't secure the services of Jaylen Brown. So LeBron looked at this team and said, like Jokic, don't know if that team can win. And that team has no ability to improve. And we know one aspect of LeBron's career is that everywhere he's gone, they've kind of terraformed the team around him. I don't know if that will be the case necessarily in Philadelphia, but everywhere else he's gone, they've made significant moves. The Denver Nuggets have proven this offseason they are incapable. So if you're looking for one more reason to pile on to Calvin Booth and his epic failure as a general manager, here's another one. This team is devoid of a currency that is the most valuable in the league and the Nuggets weren't able to land Jaylen Brown, who alone might have put them back on equal footing with Oklahoma City and San Antonio and Minnesota. And then LeBron could have went, yeah, I'd like to join there. So blame Calvin Booth. That's the moral to the story. But how LeBron James can take less money, go the other side of the country, play for a franchise he has no ties to, and this be strictly about winning in basketball, and the team with the best player on planet Earth cannot even get a cursory mention in the conversation of who's going to land LeBron James. But Minnesota can. 719-24-7, 1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Switchbacks FC right back at it tomorrow night at Widener Field, taking on one of the highest scoring teams in the league. In fact, only one team has scored more goals this year than the Switchbacks in the USL Championship. That is Charleston Battery. So, highly anticipated matchup tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Widener Field. It is also Christmas in July. Got a dope Santa hat that they're giving away to the first fans through the gates. If you would like to be one of those first fans, well, I can't ensure that you'll be one of the first fans, but I will give you the tickets, and then you can make sure you're one of the first fans through the gates at Widener Field tomorrow night. A 4-pack of tickets will go to the 13th texter to text Switchbacks and their name to 719-247-1313. Looking forward to that one. I was joking with Alan McCann, the head coach of the Switchbacks today, saying it'll probably be 1-0 at the death. The Switchbacks will win it 1-0 because I'm going to hype this up tomorrow on the broadcast to be the two highest scoring teams in the league. But it should be a good one. Two teams in the top 4 of their respective conferences is a big time matchup in the USL Championship. Hopefully we'll see you out there tomorrow night. 719-247-1313 is the number. Chris texts in, for the love of Raw, can we stop talking about LeBron? No, we can't. And for the love of, I'm more of a Zeus guy. Just saw the Odyssey. Although, no, Ra's the Egyptian sun god. What's the name of the sun god in the Odyssey? They just refer to him as sun god. Anyway, no, not on the day he picks a new team. But I did say this earlier. The timing is actually perfect because we get out all the LeBron thoughts, right? He gets the news cycle all to himself. We rest over the weekend. We come back and NFL training camp. Boom. So there will be no lingering LeBron effects into next week. So you should be happy about that, Chris. But look, the fact of the matter is LeBron James is the greatest player of his generation and arguably the greatest player in the history of basketball. Anytime he does something, it's going to be news, and he just so happened to be a free agent this year where the only thing that we had other than LeBron to talk about was the World Cup. So we will, until basketball season rolls around, probably. I can't guarantee it. I can't. Nor can anybody else on this radio station, by the way. Jim Rome can't promise you. Dan Patrick can't promise you. Even if they were as fed up with the wondering where LeBron is going to conversation as much as I was, they can't either. LeBron James is the face of the National Basketball Association, and anything he does is noteworthy. It's news. And where he chooses to go to his next team, especially when it ends up being not Cleveland, that's going to make news. But a lot of NFL training camp next week. I promise you, Chris. But we got to talk about LeBron today. It's his day. He earned it. He made it happen. But here's the thing, because in the end, this is all that matters in the end, right? Can LeBron do anything in Philadelphia to overtake Michael Jordan in the GOAT debate? At the end of the day, that's all that matters, because I said, right now, obviously, it matters where LeBron went to every NBA fan base. As time goes on, the places he didn't choose, save for Cleveland, are going to move on with their lives. Right? I'm not so sure about Cleveland. Everywhere else, I'm pretty confident as days and weeks go by, LeBron and where he's playing this year will not be as much at the forefront of their thinking on a daily basis. But we will one day, once again, reopen the debate. Jordan versus LeBron. Who you got? LeBron is going to Philadelphia because, in his mind, Philadelphia gives him the best chance to win another title. So if LeBron says he's not thinking about his legacy, if he's not thinking about Michael Jordan when he made this decision, I believe he is lying. And I actually don't even have I have a problem with lying. Don't lie. You don't need to. Just be honest. But I don't have a problem with LeBron striving to be atop that mountain. All players should try. Every NBA player should strive to be better than Michael Jordan. Very few will even be near the summit. But LeBron is one of those players. So I have no problem with him pursuing GOAT status. Now, there's a way to go about it. You got to be self-deprecating. You can't act like, it's like you run for, prom king or student council president. Like, you say that you don't care. I don't care. But if you're running, you care. You want to win it. It's the same with NBA players. If you're not in it to be the best to ever done it, why are you doing it? And don't bring up Nikola Jokic because he wants to be the best as well. Right? But there's a way you can't act like you want it. It's not cool to want it, to say you want it. Because that's why people are turning on Wembanyama now. Because he's too boisterous. He's too full of himself because he has goals to be the best player ever. I think it's quite refreshing, honestly, because everyone has this fake self-deprecation that they take part in. LeBron, just say you want to topple Michael Jordan. And you believe going to Philadelphia and potentially winning another title makes the conversation lean more in your favor. But here's the thing. It doesn't. And I have said this for a very long time. The GOAT debate is settled. And there will be no reopening it. Nothing LeBron James will do in Philadelphia will change anything. I'm telling you. Just go through this exercise. Which one do you have in the GOAT debate? Now ask yourself, LeBron does X in Philadelphia, and you go, he's a GOAT. If you already think LeBron's the GOAT, is there anything in Philadelphia that can move you off of that? You going to think less of LeBron? If you're a LeBron GOAT guy, you can't tell me this is the final straw. You let Miami go. You let him go into L.A. go. You hit the nepotism with Bronny. All of this stuff you let go and still said he was your GOAT. And now he goes to Philadelphia and it all comes crashing down. That's the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. Come on. If you're a LeBron guy, you're a LeBron guy. And what he does in Philadelphia will only cement his legacy to you. And you will say, look at what he did in Philadelphia. He got drafted by Cleveland, took them, raised them up, got them to an NBA Finals, went to Miami. They hadn't won in forever. Then they won. He went back to Cleveland, won, went to LA, won a title almost immediately. That's what you're going to bring up. He's all the championships that he's brought, every franchise that he's played for. So if he wins one in Philadelphia, it would just further fortify his case to you. And now I can speak more on this perspective, being a Jordan guy, that will actually be held against him. His nomadic nature is actually an argument against LeBron James being the GOAT. Because Michael Jordan did it with one franchise. And the way I was raised in my generation, that means something. To stick with the place. And look, it was easy for him to stay there. He had Scottie Pippen. He had it, like, that's part of it, right? But he did it with one. He didn't jump ship. He didn't, go join up with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson to create a super team. Like, that's going to be held against them. And I've always said with Michael Jordan, and this is nothing that LeBron James could do in any city, including if he stayed in Cleveland his entire career. The impact LeBron James could have had on the NBA is nothing compared to what Michael Jordan had. And that's not LeBron's fault. Life is all about timing. He was born later, right? He didn't have the opportunity to be in Michael Jordan's shoes with the dream team and the popularity that he gave the NBA because of him. That cult status that Michael Jordan had, that rock star status, no player can ever match. But that, for me, is part of why Michael Jordan is the GOAT, because of the impact he had on the popularity of basketball, not just in America, in the world. And that's something that LeBron can't and will never match. But I don't think him winning, I know him winning a title in Philadelphia will not change the debate. Who's still, because my bigger question is, who's on the fence? Who's on the most polarizing, emotional sports debate of our lifetime, Jordan or LeBron? Who's sitting on the fence at this point? Maybe LeBron believes, and I think LeBron believes that it will I think LeBron is a LeBron guy in the GOAT debate. I think LeBron would back LeBron. I think he looks at Philadelphia as a chance to win, and he'll be able to say, I went to 4 different franchises and brought all of them titles. And I did it for 20 plus years, all-time scoring champion, all of this stuff. I think he looks at Philadelphia as a way to fortify his GOAT status rather than he needs to go to Philadelphia to achieve GOAT status. And I think that's where we're at in this debate. What side of the fence you are on, you are staying on that side, regardless of how these last couple of years of LeBron's career go. And that's part of why I said, for the teams other than Cleveland, because that's a whole nother set of circumstances, but all of these other teams that were mentioned, or in Denver's case, not even mentioned in the LeBron potential destination conversation, they'll move on. Right? We did this once already. 2018, there was kind of maybe a small thought that LeBron was going to come to the Denver Nuggets. There was a time where LeBron was thought he was going to come to the Denver Nuggets in 2003 because the Nuggets had just as good of a chance as the Cleveland Cavaliers of winning the first overall pick. We have done this in Colorado twice now, where there was somewhat of a chance. No, 3 times now. Well, this wasn't a legitimate time. Never mind. Just twice. Twice before. There was some sort of a thought that LeBron James was coming to Denver. And we moved on both of those times. We will move on this time as well. So will Warrior fans. So will Heat fans. And I think it's great for Philadelphia. I'm glad for them. It will be a Philadelphia story. And certainly with LeBron James, how Philadelphia does will be noteworthy. But come on, if he hasn't convinced you that he's the GOAT now, nothing he does in Philadelphia is going to convince you. And by the way, I agree with you. I'm with you. I'm not criticizing because I feel that way. I have made my decision. It is Michael Jordan, and nothing LeBron James can do in Philadelphia is going to change my mind. But I think in his mind, he feels that it will fortify his legacy going to Philadelphia. 719-24-7, 1313, back after this. Our sweet deal of the week this week, Dickey's Barbecue Pit. One of my favorite establishments here in Southern Colorado. They got 8 locations. For just $25, you could get $50 to spend on the best Texas barbecue that you can get in our fine city. I would highly recommend the brisket, but make sure you load up on the sides. They have fantastic sides and sauces as well. So if you go to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com, either way, you'll be able to get there. Get our sweet deal of the week, Dickey's Barbecue Pit. $25 gets you $50 to spend just in time for football tailgating season. Speaking of, as we now, start to move away, this weekend will be kind of a dividing line. We've spent so much time wondering where LeBron is going. Now he's going to the Eastern Conference. He's going to Philadelphia. So over this weekend, we'll reset. And then what's next? Well, what's next? Football. Broncos vets report on Tuesday, and then they start training camp on Wednesday. Not a thing adding to the good vibes surrounding the Denver Broncos right now, but it's going to be a storyline, the ongoing legal battle of Jonathan Cooper. Apparently, he was supposed to have a virtual hearing today that has been moved back till the end of August. Not that I was anticipating all of this would be, wrapped up in a neat little bow before Jonathan Cooper was due to report for training camp, but it's definitely not going to now. And this is going to be hanging over the Denver Broncos. And he's going to have to show up. They kept excusing him from all these other activities, right? How long can they excuse him from training camp? Because now things get real. This is the real preparation for the upcoming season, a season in which the Denver Broncos fashion themselves to be Super Bowl caliber. I mean, this thing is going to be just hanging over them until it's resolved. And it's not their fault, right? And I'm not blaming the Denver Broncos in this, but it's just a fact of the matter when one of the players on your roster is accused of doing what Jonathan Cooper's accused of doing and is going through this legal process. So we'll see, come maybe Wednesday when Sean Payton speaks, with Jonathan Cooper be at training camp? Is he excused from training camp? And where they go from there. It's not the biggest story. It might be pretty big early on in training camp, but it's going to be a through line for sure. But there are a lot of strictly football things like Bo Nix's ankle, like Jonah Coleman in this rookie class, Jalen Waddle. There are other things, but the Jonathan Cooper situation is certainly one of those. So that's the latest for him. And then not football related, but kind of in the same vein of where do we go from here? I don't know if the Nuggets were hoping to land LeBron. I don't know if they were making calls to try and land LeBron. I would hope that they would. I would hope that they submitted a voice note that Rich Paul could pass along to LeBron, because I believe LeBron could have really helped the Denver Nuggets. But now LeBron has moved on. The second wave of the NBA offseason can now begin because, there were big ticket items that were moved, Jaylen Brown and Giannis Antetokounmpo being at the top of the list, but there's still a lot of NBA players, NBA caliber players that do not have a home. One domino that I expect to immediately fall is James Harden extending with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's not a guy that the Nuggets should be interested in, but I think we're going to get another wave of the NBA offseason, not as grabby as this one, certainly, but still significant, especially with the Denver Nuggets, who are not complete. They don't have every roster spot filled out. Peyton Watson is still a restricted free agent, and this team hasn't improved in the ways that they set out to this offseason. So what other options are there out there? And what other moves can the Denver Nuggets make here now that LeBron James won't be one of them? As far as Peyton Watson goes, another report today, Brett Spiegel saying that that Peyton Watson's camp, which remember is Rich Paul, wants north of 28 million, for Peyton Watson, whereas the offers that have currently come in, and don't forget, other teams can offer Peyton Watson money, but the Nuggets have the ability to match, has been 20 to 24 million. So the market, I still think that 24, I'm like, less, more towards the 20. And if you could get lower than 20, that would be just great. But this is restricted free agency. As I've said time and time again with Peyton Watson, you don't have the control. You don't have the power. You can't call your shot. The number, whatever the highest number is, he's not going to get that. If he were an unrestricted free agent, then you could expect him to get closer to that number. He's not going to as a restricted free agent. So this is good news for the Denver Nuggets, that the market, not just what Denver's may be offering, but what other teams are offering, is a little bit more palatable and a little bit more acceptable for Peyton Watson. But the Nuggets can't, in their zeal to get something done because they lost out on LeBron, cannot overpay Peyton Watson. Can't do it. I think he'll be back with the Denver Nuggets. Just hopefully the Denver Nuggets and Ben Tenzer, who's their cap guy, can figure out a number that is much better than what Rich Paul wants. Because what Rich Paul wants is actually quite insane for a guy that has one really good month of basketball to his name. But it can't just be Peyton Watson. That can't be all that the Denver Nuggets are doing. So if they were waiting till LeBron signed and the domino effect, well, here we go. Nuggets can now feel free to improve their basketball team. But football will be the main course coming up starting Monday as NFL training camps open. Looking forward to that. This is going to be a big, big NFL season locally and across the country. Very intriguing NFL season. So we'll look forward to that. But in the meantime, coming up next, my thoughts on LeBron going to Philly.